com and click on that donate button.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
America isolated from its closest allies on virtually all of the country's top international challenges. Trade with China, the nuclear deal with Iran, climate change, Russia, and more. This was a telling scene at the G7 summit in Biarritz, France. A chair, the one supposed to be occupied by the U.S. president, left empty at the summit's meeting on climate change. The White House says that bilateral meetings with Germany and India went long, so they sent a staffer in the president's place. But that claim easily undermined by one photograph. Both leaders who were supposedly in those long-running meetings with the U.S. president, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, made it to the climate summit.
Oh, my God. All right. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. Get yourself ready for another week of intense lies. Yay. Woohoo! All right, so it looks like, we had the G7 over the weekend. Hopefully you did not watch any of it. I hope you have a life. It is my job to do it, so you don't have to. So I hope you had a weekend. I had a decent weekend, I should say. Friday night, I saw the Tom Petty cover band. Lori's husband, Ron, he's the lead guitarist. That was really fun. That was amazing. Some of it was just soul moving. So thank you for having me as your guest. That was fun. And then Saturday, the G Summit, apparently the president of the United States had his own G Summit in his head. He had this whole summit in his head where he just made up crap and declared that it happened, even though photographic evidence shows that it didn't. I don't even know. He didn't go to the climate summit portion. His first story was he didn't go to the climate summit portion because he thought it was a niche thing. Climate change. It's a niche thing, not into it, not interested in it. Then when the empty chair was broadcast, he said, I meant to go to the climate portion, but I got late in a meeting with Angela Merkel and Prime Minister Modi from India. Then a photograph of Angela Merkel and Prime Minister Modi from India was published, and then he said he didn't care. He said that he had sent somebody in his stead. And then this morning, he was asked about what he thought America should be doing in the face of climate change. And he pretty much said, windmills don't work, and I don't give a damn about climate change.
About climate change. I know in the past you've harbored some skepticism of a science and climate change. What do you think the world should be doing about climate change, and do you still harbor that skepticism?
I feel that the United States has tremendous wealth. The wealth is under its feet. I've made that wealth come alive.
Come on.
We will soon be exporting. In fact, we're actually doing it now, exporting. But we are now the #1 energy producer in the world, and soon it will be by far, with a couple of pipelines that have not been able to get approved for many, many years. It'll have a huge impact. I was able to get ANWR in Alaska, could be the largest site in the world for oil and gas. I was able to get ANWR approved. Ronald Reagan wasn't able to do it. Nobody was able to do it. They've been trying to do it since before Ronald Reagan. I got it approved. We're the #1 energy producer in the world. Soon it will be by far the #1. It's tremendous wealth, and LNG is being sought after all over Europe and all over the world, and we have more of it than anybody else. And I'm not going to lose that wealth. I'm not going to lose it on dreams, on windmills, which, frankly, aren't working too well. I'm not going to lose it. So, Josh, in a nutshell, I want the cleanest water on earth. I want the cleanest air on earth. And that's what we're doing. And I'm an environmentalist. A lot of people don't understand that. I have done more environmental impact statements probably than anybody that's, I guess I can say definitely, because I've done many, many, many of them. more than anybody that's ever been president or vice president or anything even close to president. And I think I know more about the environment than most people.
Oh, my
I
God.
want clean air. I want clean water. I want a wealthy country. I want a spectacular country with jobs, with pensions, with so many things. And that's what we're getting. So I want to be very careful. At the same time, you weren't called. At the same time, it's very important to me, we have to maintain this incredible place that we've all built.
And then Josh Dawsey asked him, why didn't you answer my question? Which is, what should the world be doing to mitigate climate change? He has no answer because he doesn't know, but he's very sure that he knows more about the climate, okay, which he would probably call weather, than anybody. Meanwhile, for the second time, he asked his national security advisors, he had asked Homeland Security previously, if we could deploy nuclear weapons to break up hurricanes. I'm not kidding. He knows more about climate than anybody. Newark is drinking bottled water. Flint is still drinking bottled water. We've told you about all of the threats of lead that are in drinking water in major cities in Ohio, in Michigan, in New Jersey, all over this country, because Idiot Boy hasn't done anything on infrastructure, and the corrosive water is leaching the lead from the ancient pipes, okay? He could have said something about that, but you know what? The only takeaway from all this over the weekend is that we need to take him away, like to the funny farm. This was crazy. He had his own G7 summit in his head, in his freaking head, and he wants to bomb hurricanes. I'm not kidding.
It is your reporting that the president suggested nuking them, dropping a nuclear bomb inside a hurricane that would blow it apart before it could hit land. And here's the reporting from Axios. The briefer who heard this was knocked back on his heels, the source in the room added. You could hear a gnat fart in that meeting, something I've never said before on morning television.
You could hear a gnat fart.
Say that. Yeah,
People were astonished. After the meeting ended, we thought, what the F? What do we do with this? Can you expound on any of this, Margaret?
I'm going to try. Yes, this is something that happened in the earlier part of the president's presidency, but that we are finding out about now. And because it's hurricane season and because it's just so fascinating, we thought it was important to report it. We have this reporting from multiple sources. We gave the White House an entire day yesterday to comment, put this into context. But look, what's important to understand is that the president heard about this idea and asked whether it was possible. This is an idea that has been around since the Eisenhower administration. It has been repeatedly knocked down by scientists for kind of obvious reasons like nuclear fallout and that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But also because many scientists believe it just wouldn't work, that sort of counterintuitively, the energy produced in the middle of a hurricane is so big that there's no possible way that this could actually work in terms of disrupting the current. But also there are like environmental reasons, science reasons, health reasons. This idea did not go beyond discussions with the president, did not get into the planning levels. And it's also important to note that a lot of White House officials did not know about it.
Well, Fox News found out about it, and they're wondering why we can't do it. Because if Donald Trump wants to nuke a hurricane, then Fox News says it's probably a very good idea to nuke a hurricane. Now, that idea has been debunked since 1961, okay? In 1959, some scientists thought maybe it could actually blow the hurricane into the stratosphere. So, you know, it would displace the winds. But in 1961, it was decided, no, that would spread nuclear radiation across the entire field of the hurricane and beyond into the stratosphere. But Donald Trump and Fox News, let's do it.
A things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
President Trump denies a report that he wanted to stop hurricanes with nuclear weapons. The president tweeting the story by Axios that President Trump wanted to blow up large hurricanes with nuclear weapons prior to reaching shore is ridiculous. I never said this, just more fake news. NOAA says nuking a hurricane wouldn't stop a storm, but it would spread radioactive fallout across the globe. Good to know, guys.
And that would be the problem.
Who would have known, right?
You gotta say this is crazy, but I've always thought to myself, isn't there anything we can do to stop a hurricane? I always thought, I don't think an atomic bomb is the way to do it. Okay, maybe that wouldn't have been my first option.
Consequences would
but
be
I always
worse
think
than
about
the
that.
hurricane.
With all the progress
He
we're
always thinks
making
about that.
with driverless cars,
yes,
and Instagram, could we possibly stop a hurricane?
Well, let's ask Janice Dean.
Who's actually got a big
I think she's
storm
the most
on
qualified
the
to talk
horizon.
about
Instagram
stopping hurricanes.
Yes, I do. Not yet. We're trying.
There is nothing this man can say that Fox News wouldn't say, well, you have Instagram, so maybe we could stop a hurricane. Because we have Instagram. Because we have cars that maybe could drive themselves. We could now stop a hurricane. And Donald Trump is right to skip the climate change, because Donald Trump has a better idea, and that's to nuke the entire planet. Holy crap, man. Holy crap. So, he did say it. That's the thing. He said it more than once. He has brought it up with the Department of Homeland Security, and he's brought up nuking hurricanes again with the National Security Council, and has floated the idea and said that he knows Eisenhower. He must be like, I don't know, somebody's filling his head with like 1950s Eisenhower stuff, because that's what he's, he's crazy focused on anything Eisenhower was about. Remember the whole thing with Greenland? And he said, well, Eisenhower wanted to buy Greenland, and now he's talking about nuking hurricanes because, Eisenhower was talking about nuking hurricanes after we had an atomic bomb and then moved into the hydrogen bomb era. And he thought maybe we could displace hurricane. And, I don't know. Somebody's in his ear about Dwight David Eisenhower. It's very sick. It's very sad. But Donald Trump had an entire summit in his head that did not occur in France. Okay, it didn't occur. And then after the whole, he said he was not interested. He wasn't entirely interested in the climate portion of the summit. And the climate portion of the summit dealt with what would the global response from the 7 largest economies in the world to plastic in the ocean, plastic in the water, plastic in the food, clearing the oceans of all the plastics. Things that we know are happening, things that we know have happened, things that we know are likely to happen. You got this Dorian tropical storm that's formed, off the Lethland. It's headed to Puerto Rico right now. And poor Puerto Rico, because, you got a president who doesn't understand that ships are the trucks of the sea. Poor little baby. He doesn't understand anything. So poor Puerto Rico, they're already lined up. They're trying to get themselves some water. They're trying to get themselves situated to deal with another, it won't be, I think it'll probably hit them as a, large tropical storm. But that said, this man spent the entire G7 summit advocating for pollution, advocating for plastics in the ocean, advocating for, ignoring obvious changes in the climate, which, if you're interested in, refugees, or if you're interested in clean water, or if you're interested in, the movement of giant populations because of lack of water or because of sea level rise, you would think that the president would be marginally interested. And no, he just, he skipped it and spent the entire summit advocating for Russia, another petrol state, right, that they should be in the G7, and that next year, we should have the G7, which should be the G8, and include our foreign adversary that inserted itself into our elections, not just in 2016, but again in 2018, and continues to do so now. our foreign adversary who invaded a European nation. See, this is why Europe isn't so interested in having Russia there, right? Because they're European. And Crimea was annexed. Eastern Ukraine was annexed by Vladimir Putin, which is why the G8 became the G7 in the first place. Because those European countries plus the United States did not want Russia to go unpunished for doing that. But Trump spent the entire G7 advocating for Russia and also for his Doral Hotel to be the site of the next G7, which should be a G8 and include Russia with no preconditions. Not like you would think that Trump would say, I mean, if he was smart, right? He would say, well, if Russia wants to be part of the G8 again, they need to promise not to interfere in Europe's elections. They need to promise not to interfere in America's elections. And they also need to restore Crimea to the Ukrainians. And he needs to get out and stop occupying Eastern Ukraine. But oh no. He decided that no preconditions and that we should all meet at his hotel and his golf course in Miami.
You alluded today, dropped several hints about Miami, about Doral, and hosting next year's G7 at your property. What reassurances, if any, can you give the American people that you are not looking to profit off the presidency?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've spent, and I think I will, in a combination of loss and opportunity. Probably it'll cost me anywhere from $3 to $5 billion to be president.
Get out of here.
And the only thing I care about is this country. Couldn't care less. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. People have asked me, what do you think it costs? And between opportunity, not doing things, I used to get a lot of money to make speeches. Now I give speeches all the time.
Oh,
you know
my
what I get? Zippo, and that's good. And I did a lot of great jobs and great deals that I don't do anymore, and I don't want to do them because the deals I'm making are great deals for the country, and
like
that's
Trump
to me
Tower,
much more
Moscow.
important.
Yeah.
Doral happens to be within Miami. It's a city. It's a wonderful place. It's a very, very successful area of Florida. It's very importantly only 5 minutes from the airport. The airport.
Okay, you get it, right? and you know, it's his, so he could bug every freaking room, right? And of course, right. And of course he'll make money. I mean, his sons are in charge of the Trump organization. Isn't he trashing his own sons if he says that he's losing money by being president as they run the Trump organization for him? I mean, that's bizarre in and of itself. But, I mean, all the heads of state at the summit are headed home, and they're feeling the same way you do when you get off a bus that had a crazy person on it. The same way that you do when you get off an airplane with a screaming, crying, fitful, tired baby. You know, and you don't really appreciate how weird that whole experience was until you get some distance from it. By the way, that's the way the whole country is going to feel once Trump leaves. It's going to be like, oh my God, wow, I didn't appreciate how freaking weird that really was.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, in case you missed it.
Have you reached a decision?
Yes, and it's great to be with you. I'm going to run for president, and I'm happy to be on your show announcing my candidacy. George, no surprise, we've got a guy in the White House who's unfit, completely unfit, to be president. And it stuns me that nobody stepped up. Nobody in the Republican Party stepped up because I'll tell you what, George, everybody believes in the Republican Party. Everybody believes that he's unfit. He lies every time he opens his mouth.
You say that. You say everybody believes he's unfit, but one of the things the White House points to and the president points to often is just about every poll shows more than 80% support for the president among Republicans.
They don't have an alternative. I'll tell you what, George, and look, I'm running because he's unfit. Somebody needs to step up, and there needs to be an alternative.
Okay, so Joe Walsh's brand of racism will be the alternative to Donald Trump's brand of racism. Isn't that fun? Crazy conservative radio talk show host, one-term congressman from Illinois, Joe Walsh is going to challenge Donald Trump. You know, it's a crazy party. I have to tell you, the Republican Party is shrinking. There are fewer and fewer and fewer people calling themselves Republican these days. And of the people who are still calling themselves and identifying with the neo-Nazi, white fascism, anti-Semitical party that is the GOP, there's 36% of America that still identifies as that. And of those, and you can't say this often enough, of those 36%, 80% support Donald Trump. So where is the path to victory for Joe Walsh? I'm not sure, and I don't really care. All I could tell you is that perhaps we will get televised Republican primary debates, everybody. Won't that be fun?
Should the 25th Amendment be invoked?
It should be looked at. George, we've never had a situation like this.
That's true.
You can't believe a word he says.
Right.
And again, I don't care your politics. That should concern you. He's nuts. He's erratic. He's cruel. He stokes bigotry. He's incompetent. He doesn't know what he's doing. George, he's a narcissist. Everything he cares about, the only thing he cares about is Trump. He doesn't give a damn about America.
That's true. It's all true. The problem is that Joe Walsh was tweeting Obama is a Muslim in 2016. That was his New Year's tweet. He wrote, Obama is a Muslim. Happy New Year. That was his New Year's tweet last year. In March of 2017, he said that the country held Barack Obama to a lower standard because he was black. And then he said of Kamala Harris, quote, if you're black and a woman, you can say dumb things, lowered the bar. So I want to see the debates where they have like their Nazi off, like Kienes Mats Nazi, wouldn't that be fun? He actually called Obama a Muslim, an enemy, a traitor. Everything that Joe Walsh ever put out there was racially based, everything. And the whole, and now I want you to know that he apologizes. He says he's sorry. He says, yes, I voted for Trump in 2016, but I also say that I have the courage to finally say publicly what we all know privately. What, you're a racist? No, that we're tired of Trump's racism. He says, my name is Joe Walsh, and I'm a former Republican congressman. I'm a conservative. I'm running because Donald Trump is not who we are. In fact, he's the worst of who we are. And he apologized for saying that he and other Tea Party, see, that's who Joe Walsh was. He and other Tea Party Republicans helped create a partisan political environment that facilitated Trump's election. He says, quote, I got personal and I got hateful. And I said some ugly things about President Obama that I regret. I helped create Trump, and I feel responsible for that. He said Trump is practicing textbook racism and sexism, but that's exactly what Joe Walsh did. The other probable, the other, I don't even know what to call them, Republicans who are eyeing a 2020 challenge to Donald Trump in the primaries is Mark Sanford, who lied about hiking the Appalachian Trail so he could hang out with Maria, his South American love, and cheat on his wife. I don't know, but, South Carolina governor, congressman, he's mulling running against Trump. That ought to be fun. We could argue about who lies harder about women and cheating, Mark Sanford or Donald Trump. And it also looks like John Kasich from Ohio is thinking about it too, but he's been thinking about it for so long because he's had a bad experience. Every time he runs, he's not conservative enough. He's not racist enough. Kasich is just, he's sort of a pie in the sky, God will take care of it kind of a guy. This is what Kasich is all about. And then Jeff Flake from Arizona, he said he's taken a flurry of recruitment calls from GOP donors rattled by signs of an economic slowdown and hungry for an alternative to Trump. So this is what I'm saying. The Republican Party is shrinking like a tumor. Like a tumor on America, because it has been a cancer on America. Everything that these people said, everything these people did, everything that they advocated for, all the trickle-down economics that they always, was reverse socialism. Give all the money to the top, and then they will, somehow give it out to, us in the middle and at the bottom. Yeah. So, all their reverse socialism, all of their racism, all of their bell curve ideas, all of their Jim Crow laws, all of their, voter suppression efforts that are continuous, all of their purging of voter registration rolls and their silence on this man in public and their panic in private has led us to this crying baby on the airplane moment where finally, once everybody is allowed to get off the airplane, you will realize how unbelievably ridiculous and how it tested everything that you had to keep yourself together during the Trump presidency felt. You will finally feel it. And I'm talking to Republicans when I say that. So, oh, and by the way, Joe Arpaio is back. 87-year-old racist Joe Arpaio, who Trump had to pardon because he was ordered to stop locking up people based on his presumption that they didn't have proper papers to be here. Yeah, Trump had to pardon him for violating the court order. He ignored a federal judge's court order to stop detaining people because he merely suspected them. I told you, people are suspect in the Republican leadership. Everybody is the unwashed masses. We're all suspect. But he's running again for his old job. He wants to be sheriff of Maricopa County again. Trump is going to be the gift that keeps on giving.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
You want to see what blind loyalty looks like, sounds like, smells like, tastes like? You want to see what it looks like? This was amazing, okay? Larry Kudlow, who was drunk last week on TV because he had to defend Donald Trump and apparently had to get all boozy at like 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning or at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning. God only knows what time he got up and started drinking. But Larry Kudlow was again called to defend Donald Trump. And what's crazy is there was actual tape of Donald Trump, being talked to by Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, who everybody says is the UK's Trump, right? He's got a really bad hair doozy. He dyes the same, Well, even Boris Johnson said that these tariffs on China are devastating for the world's economy. It's not just recession. It's a global depression that he's flirting with. And he said at the G7 to Donald Trump that tariffs are just, kind of stupid. He would prefer no tariffs. Well, Larry Kudlow was asked about Boris Johnson saying that to Donald Trump's face, and Larry Kudlow denied that he said it to Donald Trump's face, even though CNN played the tape of Boris Johnson saying it to Donald Trump's face. And Larry Kudlow decided at first that it was being mischaracterized. Then he decided to tell you it didn't even happen.
On the trade war, we're in favor of trade peace on the whole. And that's what we want to see. So we're keen to see. But we don't like tariffs on the whole.
We don't like tariffs on the whole, Johnson said. How are you responding to criticism from world leaders about the U.S. strategy with China?
Well, look. Yeah, I'm not sure I agree how you portrayed that, to be honest. I was in that meeting.
What do you mean that's a quote?
Yeah, well, that may be a quote, but sometimes you're taking a quote out of context. Let me try to generate some context. Again, I was in that meeting for 2 hours with the world leaders. Indeed, I participated in the meeting. First of all, all those world leaders, every single one of the 7 leaders, the G7 plus
What's out
the
of
new
Larry?
EU
Larry,
guy,
what's out of context? Because we've just rolled video. I mean, what is out of context with that quote?
If I might just finish my thought, please. And I'm not sure what you just played is something from that meeting. It sounds to me like it came after the meeting, which is why I wanted to raise the right context. They
That's
are
in the
wholly
meeting,
behind
Larry.
President Trump. Now, well, I was in that meeting, and I can tell you the atmosphere in that meeting was constructive. And
Larry, those
supportive
words came out of
President
Boris
Trump.
Johnson's mouth.
And let me,
How
I know,
do you argue
and you'll
with
keep
that?
repeating that. So let me weigh in. Okay, yes, I know, but Boris Johnson expressed support.
These
for
aren't mutually
President
exclusive
Trump's
ideas, though.
campaign to go after. Well, that's what I'm trying to say to you. That you're making a situation. You're taking it out of context. The total context here.
I'm not taking
was
it out of
support
context,
for the president's policies.
That's blind loyalty. Okay, that is blind loyalty. He must, Donald Trump wanted to put a tariff on French wines. Larry Kudlow's probably drinking all the French wine so that there can be no tariffs on French wine because there won't be any more French wine because Larry Kudlow will have drunk it. Oh my God. No matter what you show them, no matter what you produce to them. I mean, and here's another moment. This is just so sick. It's really, really twisted. But they claimed, Donald Trump and Steve Mnuchin and Larry Kudlow claimed that there were phone calls with China and China wants a deal. China wants a deal more than America wants a deal. China wants to come to the table. China's interested in fixing even though Friday we left off with the market down 700 points, China threatening tariffs on the United States, and Donald Trump threatening even higher tariffs than he promised, saying, okay, well, now the 20% tariffs have just gone to 25 and the 10 has gone to 15 and we're going to, this is just crazy. And I'm sure everybody at the G7 explained to Donald Trump that this isn't going to be a recession for the United States. This is going to be a global depression because supply chains are it's a global supply chain, okay? Items come from all over the world to create something, to create a car, to create a circuit board, to create a computer, to create keyboards, to create telephones, to create, all of it. And so they were trying to tell, okay, so here they're asking, did you talk to China because they found that China was saying, we never talked to Donald Trump. President Xi said, I had nothing to do with him, okay? This man is off the rails, and he's nasty, and we don't want to sit down and talk to him until he calms himself down. So they asked him, they went back, and they said to him, but you said you spoke to Xi, and this is what happened.
So we get our reporting right. I'm going to give it one more crack.
So China. We could get our reporting right.
Earlier to Lei Hu's statement, which we all saw. Did you mean to say that there was also a call last night, or was there not actually a call last night?
There were discussions that went back and forth. Let's just leave it at that.
Last night and before last night.
Yes.
And before last night. Numerous. Look, they want to get something done.
We're going to get something done. There were no calls, okay? Steve Mnuchin said there were discussions back and forth. They go last night, and Donald Trump interrupts Mnuchin, who's like, just let's leave it at that, and says, no, there were calls last night. Well, China says there were no calls last night. And now we are in a position where the president of the United States lies so often and so much about obvious things like Modi and Angela Merkel's meeting went long, and that's why he wasn't in the climate portion of the G7. Even though photographs of Angela Merkel and Modi in the climate summit portion were easily shown. And then Trump was asked about our economy, and, this was Saturday, and he said the markets are great.
Mr. President, any second thoughts on escalating the trade war with China?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Second thoughts?
Might as well.
You have second thoughts about escalating the war with China?
I have second thoughts about everything.
You're concerned about how the market is reacting to this?
No, the market's doing great. Our country's doing great. Everybody was telling me yesterday.
Look at Kudlow's face.
People are trying to copy the formula. We cut taxes way down. We got rid of regulations, large numbers, more than any president's ever gotten rid of. And we're doing very well. Our country's doing fantastically well. I mean, you people want a recession because you think
maybe that's the way to get Trump out. Maybe that's the way we get him out. But I don't even think that would work because, look, if there's anything, it's, we've got to go into trade negotiations to get it right. But ultimately, it'll be many times what it was before. Our country is doing really well. We have horrible trade deals, and I'm straightening them out. The biggest one by far is China.
I am the chosen one.
Again, you're sitting there with the 7 largest economies on this planet. You would think that to get everybody on the same page to fight China's bad trade behavior would be a good thing. You would think power in numbers, like collective bargaining, like that there. But oh no, Donald Trump is making an enemy out of Europe and the European Union. And Donald Trump at the same time is, he's making an enemy of China, right? Instead of using the power that was right there at that table to present a unified front. This man says, only I can fix it. I don't understand. This grandiosity that he has is a real sickness. This narcissism that he has is a real sickness. And the lying that he does is really, so now you're forced to decide, do I believe our lying president or do I believe the communist dictator Xi Jinping? Really? Do you believe Kim Jong-un over the president of the United States? Well, I'll tell you what I believe. I believe the missile launches. That's what you believe. What actually occurs in front of your face. He's literally lying. And it makes no sense to anybody who will stop for just a half a second and think about what's the best approach. If you believe that China is ripping off the United States, is it getting Americans to foot the bill for his ridiculous trade war and farmers to, take a massive, massive hit and have to get tons and tons of money from the government to keep them going? Or does it make more sense to sit at a G7 and figure out a way for a unified front against China? Just think for a second. Which would you choose? Would you choose the power of numbers, or would you just say, I'm the Messiah, I'm the chosen one, I can do this, only I can fix it, I alone? This is just so unbelievable. You have so many so many people are paying for these tariffs. He talks about these billions of dollars that are coming in. They're coming out of your pocket, those billions, not the Chinese. And he keeps on lying and saying the Chinese are paying all these billions. No, American consumers are.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe it. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I say here in Kentucky to Senator McConnell, stop blocking legislation from coming to the floor of the Senate. Now, if you want to, Senator McConnell, you can vote against that legislation. But we live in a democracy. The Senate is entitled to a debate, and the American people are entitled to know how you vote. Stop your cowardice. Have the guts to debate the issues.
Woohoo! All right. Let's talk about us, all right? Let's talk about us now that we have cleared the air and we understand that the G7 happened, in France, and then there was another one in Trump's head. Okay, we get that. Elizabeth Warren polled 15,000 people in Seattle this weekend. 15,000. Now, you remember before that, she was in, I think, St. Paul in Minnesota, and she polled 12,000. Bernie was in Kentucky, where typically you don't see Democrats. You really don't see them campaigning all that hard in Kentucky. But Bernie went to Kentucky to tell Kentuckians that Mitch McConnell is the impediment to progress, truthfully. He went there so that he could show Kentuckians that this man who can't raise any money, Mitch McConnell cannot raise money from Kentuckians, okay? 6% of Mitch McConnell's money is raised in Kentucky by Kentuckians, and Mitch McConnell refuses, and he's an impediment to everything. Like 90-something% of America wants background checks, and he won't introduce it in the Senate. The idea that he sat on a Supreme Court seat for Merrick Garland because he could, and then handed it to a guy who has a questionable past with women. I mean, that's just a gimme. Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, the whole thing. And so Bernie actually, stuck his toe into Kentucky and went there and campaigned there. Like I said, Elizabeth Warren, she's, these two candidates, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, are not taking any corporate money. They have raised, money in small donations from individual donors. I believe that in June alone, Elizabeth Warren raised $7.8 million from 320,000 individual donors, compared with Joe Biden's method of getting campaign donations. He raised $2.2 million from 111,000 donations. This is according to Act Blue, which has a fundraising tool that you can use. And it looks like Bernie and Elizabeth's small donor fundraising is in direct. These guys, their small donors, direct fundraising is in direct contradiction to Joe Biden. I'll go and I'll speak to large money donors. I'll speak to corporate donors and I'll take money that way. So there is a complete contrast between the way that Bernie and Elizabeth are running their campaigns versus, Uncle Joe. That said, it's not a reason to turn your back on Joe, I guess. But we have to talk about something, and it's going to be difficult to do, and it's hard for me to do it. It's really hard for me to do it. But Joe Biden, like I said, I have all of these clips of him that I don't play. And I don't play them because I don't want to dirty him up. I don't want to tarnish him. I don't want to hurt him. I know him, and you know that I disagree with him plenty. I also disagree with President Clinton plenty, and I knew him well too. But Joe Biden could very well be the nominee of our party. And so there's really no plus side to tarnishing him. But we have to talk about the fact that he's getting very confused on the campaign trail. He seems to be confused about many things. He seems to be confused often about states that have had shootings in them. He confused El Paso and Dayton with some other places. He was asked over the weekend, what did he think about being in New Hampshire? He was in Keene, New Hampshire. And the reporter said, well, what do you think of Keene?
Of Keene. I'm back. I've been here a number of times. Last time was, I think, all the way back in 2014. But I've been here before that. I love this place. Look, what's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it? And what a neat town. This is sort of a scenic, beautiful town. The mayor's been a good guy, and everybody's been really friendly. I like Keene a lot.
Okay, so he was in Keene, New Hampshire, and he said, what's not to like about Vermont? And that, in and of itself, no big deal. It's like being in a rock band, I guess, where you get... Although, I will say, if you're in a rock band, this is probably a very good, little comparison that I just stumbled into in my head. If you're in a rock band and you're opening in Palm Beach, okay, and you get up on the stage and you say, hey, Cleveland, you look at... people are going to boo you. You understand that? So this is a problem, but that's not the whole thing, okay? It's just not. Joe Biden, on Friday, was doing a town hall about health care. And he took a lot of detours in this talk about his health care plan. And it was it was. Here, you decide what it was.
Dr. I only had two political heroes. One here was my Dr. I only had two political heroes. One here was my dad. My two political heroes were Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy. My senior semester, they were both shot and killed. Imagine what would have happened if, God forbid, Barack Obama had been assassinated after becoming the de facto nominee.
Oh, no.
What would have happened in America?
Oh, no.
Things changed. You had over 40 kids shot in Kent State on a beautiful lawn.
Oh, no.
The National Guard. There are a whole lot of things. And guess what? When I walked across that stage, I come from a family that had no political influence at all. I'm the first U.S. Senator I ever knew. I got out of school, and in 4 years, I was running for the United States Senate. Didn't intend to. Got involved in the civil rights movement. Next thing you know, they asked me to do something no one else would do. But here's the deal. An entire generation was energized.
I don't know who Dr. Chi is. I don't know who Dr. Chi is, which is what he started talking about. And I cannot believe that the vice president to Barack Obama is standing on a stage currently and asking the audience to imagine what would have happened if Barack Obama had been assassinated. I also don't know how he got to the number 40 dead in Ohio, 4 dead in Ohio, 9 were injured, 9 were wounded. So even if you added up the 4 that were killed at Kent State and the 9 that were injured, you'd get to a grand total of 13 kids who were shot at Kent State by the National Guard, by the way. 40 dead. Listen, I'm so sorry, but somebody has to say something about Biden's ability to think on his feet or to think at all. Something is not right there. We're living through a president who is a different kind, I'll say, a different kind of not right. The president that we have now is a sweaty, quivering, massive, mutilated flesh who is having a break with reality, and it is more psychotic than anything. And I think Biden is just a little too nostalgic and a little too confused. I don't know if he'll make it to the whole process. I don't know if he'll make it through the whole process. I mean, obviously, February is when the Iowa caucuses will happen, and we'll know, better who our nominee is. But I listen. Anybody but Trump is where I'm at. But really,
all things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
How far is it from white supremacists and neo-Nazis in Charlottesville, Trump's very fine people chanting, "You will replace us," to the shooter at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh saying, "We're committing genocide. Jews are committing genocide on his people." I don't think it's that far at all. It's both clear language and in code. This president has fanned the flames of white supremacy in this nation.
Okay, I get where he's trying to go, but he didn't quite land it. And this is a problem. It is a problem when your entire campaign was launched on Charlottesville and you don't know that the chant was "Jews will not replace us." And that, I mean, listen, I'm just saying, if you're in New Hampshire, please don't comment about how great Vermont is, okay? And if you're talking about Charlottesville, and that is what your campaign is about, is restoring the soul of America and showing that there are neo-Nazis that are emboldened and enlivened and given new energy by Donald Trump's remarks, please get it right. If you're, I don't know what to say. I'm a little worried that Joe Biden and, Jill Biden last week sat there and said, my husband may not be as good on health care as Elizabeth Warren or as Bernie Sanders is, but you have to choose the most electable person. Okay, I agree. And for me, anybody, and everybody beats Trump. Biden beats Trump. Warren beats Trump. Sanders beats Trump. Even Kamala and Cory Booker beats Trump. Everybody beats Trump. Everybody, because this country is exhausted from this man's lying. The country is feeling the pain from this man's stupidity on trade. Okay, everything he touches dies. Okay, the idea that he is emboldening anti-Semites, the idea that he is, locking up people and their children now, and he wants to do it indefinitely. This is sick. It's sad. It is totally anti-American. Isolating America does not make America first. It makes America alone. All right. And this America first thing, that is a Nazi thing. That is a Nazi appeasement thing that, came from Charles Lindbergh, who was a anti-Semite and didn't want America to get involved in World War II. He thought it was a Jewish problem and America needed to be first in that decision, and that it would not serve our purposes to go and defend people who were being exterminated. That's Charles Lindbergh. That's where America first comes from. Make America great again is Ronald Reagan. And this idea of nostalgia that Donald Trump exploited is exactly where Joe Biden is headed. And did it work? Well, yeah. Can it work again? I don't know. But it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. I don't know who you like. I don't know who you're, backing. I don't know if you've chosen a horse in this race yet. But there is going to be a collision. And it seems to me, just from looking at, what's going on with crowds and with enthusiasm out there and with young people, it seems to me that there's going to be a collision. Now, it's better than collusion. Don't get me wrong. But there's going to be a collision with our candidates. There's going to be a problem with Biden, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders. It seems that those are the top candidates. The rest of the candidates, I like them. I mean, I like Kamala a lot. I think she's an amazing prosecutor. I love when she questions the Trump people. She gets right to the heart of it, and she is not to be bamboozled. She is brilliant. But she hasn't been able to get African-American support behind her, and Biden has. And this is what is making Biden seem electable, is that African-Americans just don't believe that a black candidate can survive, against Donald Trump. And I get it, and it's a pragmatic choice, and I understand it. But they've thrown their support behind Biden because Biden just seems to be a garden variety centrist Democrat. And they just want to win. But we cannot win without African Americans. And we cannot win without suburban housewives. And we cannot win without young people. We can't. And we need all of those constituencies. And I'm just watching this, and I see a clash of opposites is what I see. I see Joe Biden as the establishment favorite, and I think that you have other candidates who have ideas, big, bold ones, and some people are scared of big and bold now. But I'm telling you, big and bold is what wins. But big and bold and truthful, big and bold and beneficial, big and bold and profitable for us. But I don't know. The more I hear him, the more I watch him, the more I get nervous about him. When he was talking about Parkland, the Parkland shooting happened shortly after President Trump became President Trump. It was the first mass school shooting. See how you have to word that to be correct? The first mass school shooting. Can't say first mass shooting. Oh, no. You have to say the first mass school shooting under Donald Trump. And he botched that.
I watched what happened when the kids from Parkland marched up to, and I met with them, and then they went off to up on the hill when I was vice president. They went off the hill to go into those neighborhoods.
You were not vice president. You were not vice president when Parkland happened. Mike Pence was vice president when Parkland happened. This is what worries me. It really does. And I'm not doing this out of disrespect for Biden, and I'm not. And if he's the nominee, we'll support him. We just need a very strong vice presidential pick. I could see a Biden Buttigieg because Buttigieg is more centrist. I could see that. But if I didn't tell you that I'm getting worried about this candidacy, if I didn't tell you, look, he had 130 people in Iowa. He had 130 people. I know a lot of people thought John Kerry, okay? Remember we had Howard Dean. Howard Dean was the 50-state strategy. He was revolutionary. And then a hot mic. It wasn't even a hot mic. It was a mic. It was just a mic, and he was, very excited about winning some primaries, and he got very excited, and he, gave a scream. I can't even do it, okay? And the mixing board made it sound crazy because it wasn't mixed properly, and they played that Dean scream over and over and over again, and this scared people away from Howard Dean. We ended up with this safe one, and the safe one was John Kerry. That was 15 years ago. 15 years ago, they went with the safe one. And he lost. The way people are putting it out in the field is that Warren is a rock star and Joe Biden is a rock. Meaning we know him. And we do know him, and we know he's a decent guy. I know he's a decent guy. I know he's not a liar. I know that. And I know he has amazing respect for the office.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, so this was Elizabeth Warren over the weekend. That was a lot of people in Seattle. It was like 18,000 people. Biden was, he was in Iowa. He had 130 people in Prohl, Iowa. It's a tiny little town, to his credit. There's only 900 people there. But it would be lovely to see 1,000 people, for Joe Biden. I haven't seen it. I'm worried about it. I don't know what else to tell you about it, but it seems to me that the support for Biden is, there in southern states. I will say that. South Carolina, Georgia, these kind of primaries. I get it. I understand it, but I'm not sure exactly why that is at this point. But if, Bernie and Elizabeth are going to have to, figure it out between them, only one person can actually get the amount of delegates that are needed to be the nominee, and Bernie and Elizabeth are in direct competition. But how do I put this? If Warren or Bernie, either one, would say, okay, I'm going to step aside and all my, support should go to either Warren says Bernie or Bernie says Warren, then that person, that progressive person, would have better polling than Joe Biden does. Do you see what I mean? Mike in California.
Hey, good afternoon, Randi.
Hi.
Hey, good afternoon. Let me just plug in this phone real quick. Of course, it happens like this.
Yeah, of course.
You pick up and then I'm in the middle of plugging in the phone for more power. I wanted to just thank you, first of all, for bringing up that information regarding Biden. I could hear your reluctance in doing so. I get it. I understand it. But, it is obviously so important that we have all that information for our conversation when we were, assessing and evaluating candidates. And you're not denigrating him, and you had no intention of meaning any sort of denigrating information, but just factual information. So
yeah, but here's the problem. The problem is somebody's going to be the nominee, and if that nominee is Joe Biden, and I just don't want people, especially progressives who are very,
right.
They're moody. Do you know? I don't know what else to say. You got your Bernie bros who are going to be angry if it's Biden, okay? You've got Warren supporters who are going to be, disappointed too. Especially like the Puma people who are, just pro-woman candidate. They're going to be peeved. They're going to be upset. I don't want anybody to sit home. That's the problem that I'm having here.
True. Although, that old saying about... you can't please all the people all the time.
You can't, but there are people on the left. There are people on the left who are so obnoxious in that they will let the perfect be the enemy of what's doable.
Yeah. Well, I would hope that most of us are critically enough in our thinking to understand that and appreciate what information is out there. I mean, I know for myself, with my limited time in life, I do read a lot. I really don't even have cable. I don't have cable anymore. So all my news comes from journalists and good sources like you and have always pointed out. And I can't still read everything like you can. That's why I so much appreciate you and your show and all the information that you provide and some of these clips that, I haven't heard or don't read about and I don't know about. So I can imagine some of these other people not getting it.
I know.
But I just want to encourage you, don't stop. I mean, even if, something comes up with some of these other candidates, presenting it in just an empathetic, factual way is so valuable and appreciative, at least from somebody like me, to be able to help continue to evaluate candidates. And I know you're looking at all the other angles, and let's just hope none of this is a reluctance for people to come out to vote, because obviously I think people are getting it.
Exactly. And that's...
We all need to get out.
We do. Everybody needs to, and it's just really sad. I mean, people in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, they were all saying over the weekend that they were really sorry that they didn't vote in the last election. And I told them, they would call me and tell me they were sitting it out because they cannot make themselves vote for Hillary. And they were going to sit it out. And I just said, one is a fascist and one isn't. So go and vote. And they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. And over the weekend, they were saying how sorry they were and that they will make sure that they get up and vote this time. And I see that, there's enthusiasm now to get rid of this, crazy man, this very dangerous, evil, ugly, narcissist, lying sack of crap. I get it. But if they get a nominee that's not their ideal of perfection, are they going to pull that same crap all over again?
Yeah, let's hope not. I hope they're smart enough. I think,
do too.
Most people are realizing those days are over.
There's
days no sitting out anymore.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't.
It's not an option.
I know.
It's not an option now.
Well, that's the thing is when we vote, we win because there are more of us than there are of them. Like I keep telling you, only 36% of this country is identifying themselves as Republicans. So there, what does that tell you? It tells you that 60-something percent, 63, 64% of the country is not. And that's more of us than there are of them, whether they're independents, whether they're centrists, whether they're liberals, progressives. I don't care. They're not voting for Donald Trump. They're not down with this. They don't like it. It feels wrong to them. They understand, 60% of America believes this man is a racist. So I just don't want them to be, I'm unhappy with who was the eventual nominee and therefore I don't care. That's just...
I'm getting a sense that's not going to be that.
It better not.
This time around.
It better not.
I really don't. So, but hey, real quick back to Bernie. Not Bernie, but Joe. I've been noticing those deficiencies myself for some time, and I know it hadn't been discussed much in the normal media. So I'm glad that you and some others are starting to at least turn the light bulb on to some folks that may not be seeing it, because I think we just need to have those frank discussions, despite I know kind of your fears and anxieties about what the result might be from that. But I very much appreciate it, and I hope you continue. If you find any other pieces of information on current candidates that maybe are a little esoteric or nuanced that we don't know about.
I will. I've decided. I mean, just sitting on all these clips and obviously the campaign is hiding him. Okay, I just don't see him, doing and out there, and I think that they understand that he's a decent guy, he's a good guy, his heart is in the right place, but his head is a little different than his heart. Okay, his head is a little fuzzy. I don't know if it's temporary fuzziness. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he'll get it together. I don't know if he's just, but they'll say, oh, Biden is famous for gaffes. Biden is famous for gaffes. I know. And is he better than Trump? I'm better than Trump. My adorable shoes are better than Trump, okay? This light bulb is better than Trump.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I mean, our country is not well right now. We're not, we need to get our act together, number one, and step back and take a breath. This country's made up of immigrants. We're made up of people of every color, every creed, and that's what makes us special. And to somehow side up black and white or brown and white or whatever it may be is just wrong. It's not who we are.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, Cindy McCain over the weekend saying our country is not well because it's the anniversary. Well, it's a commemoration, not an anniversary. Well, I guess it's an anniversary. No. John McCain died a year ago. And so people were asking her, what does she miss and what did she learn? And she was very honest. This country is not well, that John McCain was a voice of reason. They played the clips of Donald Trump and the send her back chants versus John McCain and the woman who forgot she had a back of her head and didn't brush her hair back there, who said, I can't vote for Obama. He's an Arab. No, ma'am, he's not. No, ma'am, he's not. He's a patriotic American who I just have disagreements with, right? That. Showcasing the difference between a man who will do anything to hold power and a man who will not do anything. He had a line he wouldn't cross. And of course, Trump trashed, he likes people that weren't captured. I mean, he's sick. Just trashed every prisoner of war, every missing in action, every person who ever sacrificed their lives in this country. Oh, I like people that don't die in war. I like the survivors of the war, not the people who died. I mean, it's a very sick man. He's a very sick man. But there is a problem in our party. Again, next month we'll have debates. Also, next month, I think September 4th or 5th, CNN is going to have town halls with all 10 candidates. That includes Biden, Warren, Buttigieg, everybody, all of them, Bernie, everybody. So when next month comes rolling around, there'll be, a lot more to take in, a lot more to process, a lot more decisions will have to be made by a lot of people. But it's bothering me. It's bothering me that we're being told that you just have to vote for a person because he has decided he is the most electable based on early polling. And that would be great if I didn't see and I didn't hear him comment or, compliment Vermont when he was in New Hampshire or screw up Jews will not replace us in a very important speech that he gave. If I didn't hear him talk about what would have happened if Obama was assassinated, if I didn't hear him say that 40 students were killed at Kent State in Ohio when 4 people were killed at Kent State in Ohio in 1970 during a Vietnam War protest. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why people who are helping him with the campaign aren't talking to him and putting him on a teleprompter or making sure he stays on a teleprompter. I don't know. Robert in Naples.
Hey, Randy, the ground rules here. Can we swear anymore or no?
No.
Okay, I won't. All right. It's about Joe Biden. I agree with you. I think you said it great when you said that, Warren and Bernie there are getting 20 and 20. So you take one out, you got 40. So
right.
Basically, you split the vote there, Joe's got the lead. You think, one of those backs out or loses out,
Well, what you have here, just to make it nice and clear, is you got 39% of the country wanting a moderate, and 40% wanting a progressive, but not knowing which one.
Right. All right. Listen, I call for this reason. Donald Trump keeps crapping on Obama, and anytime he says the word Obama, Joe Biden's got to be there to shut the door and slam him straight and tell him, hey, no, that's not what happened. This is what happened. I mean, he's talking already with the G7, and Obama was weak, played by Putin, this, that, the other. Joe Biden should be saying, who's telling you this crap? Well, because you can't find another leader in the world that agrees with you. This is you working for.
What is Donald Trump saying? That we should have gone to war with Russia over the annexation of Crimea instead of sanctioning Russia? Right? I mean, what we did in response to his annexation of Crimea was we put sanctions on Russia. We kicked out their diplomats, and we went to the G7 or the and said.
But Randy, that's my point. Joe Biden's not saying this. He should be saying it for us. We shouldn't have to say it. On a talk show, Joe Biden should be screaming from the freaking hilltop. I said freaking.
No,
from the hilltop.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying I think they're hiding him. They only put him out when it's absolutely necessary in Iowa, and then only in living rooms with 130 people or with 30 people or 100 people or they're hiding him. And I think
Jill's going to pull the plug on him. I think she loves her husband more than anything. I think. There's going to be a day, and maybe soon, that she's going to say, we're out of this. We can't do it, and we support whoever wins the nomination. I don't see it in it. I really can't see. Well, we're trading one kavutza for another kavutza. I mean, we're going from crazy to more crazy.
Well, Joe Biden isn't crazy. Donald Trump is
he's not crazy.
Joe Biden is just a little fuzzy in the head because he's almost 77 years old, and you have different 77s. It's like my mom is 89 and she's like 30, okay, in her.
No, I know. We have it in my family.
Yeah.
I had an uncle who lost his mind at 50. And
I've seen 65-year-olds that act and behave and think like they're 90. Okay, and I've seen 90-year-olds who are, spry and just as sharp as tacks like my mom, Yeah,
but if you look at Joe Biden, he looks like a cantaloupe. I mean, basically, he's a cantaloupe with hair. I mean, he's not handsome anymore. He's not handsome.
Okay.
I love you, Randy.
Okay. There's no reason to be cruel here. There's just no reason to be cruel. Jim in California.
Hey, Randy. I won't take up too much of your time, but I just got two quick things. And the first is that I think in terms of whoever wins the nomination, I'm just feeling more and more like I want it to be Warren. And I understand the pragmatic, people wanting Biden to win, but I remember you talking about how many of like older black ladies, like how pragmatic they are, and how I think that they will come over to whoever the Democratic nominee is more than some of these, as you say, moody Warren and Bernie supporters will. But and just in terms of the way she fights and the way she can take these things and boil them down, like we're her students, and I don't know, I might be crazy, but I think that the more people that really get to hear her message and the way she fights, and I think she relishes a fight with Trump. I know she does. She was like, she's down for throwing down with that guy anytime. And so I just feel it's going to be her. And the other thing is just that between the PAC courts and the all the taxes, that horrible tax bill, and what was the third one? I can't even. Oh, the way he got through this Mueller investigation. I think he's kind of an impulsive, evil, savant idiot. But as a whole micro, like as an organism, they are not to be underestimated. He's looking at real charges if he doesn't win this thing, and they're going to go super low. And I just love you for all the work you do.
You're right about that. You're absolutely right. There are two things that everybody needs to read today if they want to, see what you're talking about. There are two articles. One is a New York Times article. It's called "Trump Allies Target Journalists." Okay, that they are going after journalists social media feeds from the time they were in high school, their MySpace pages, to find anything at all, and not just journalists, but journalists' families, to denigrate reporters for the Washington Post, the New York Times, and anybody that disagrees with Donald Trump or investigates Donald Trump's false claims. That's one article. And the other one that you need to read is also in the New York Times. It's called The Education of Elizabeth Warren. And it's really important that if you're leaning towards Warren or you're not sure about Warren, either way, to read this article about Elizabeth Warren, because it will show you why Elizabeth Warren fights so hard for consumers, what it was in her life that turned her into this massive consumer advocate.
That is a big, beautiful article. I read that one. I was surprised to find out that, she was kind of like anti-consumer when she was just getting her feels about her, but it didn't take long for her to put to her personal life experiences and what she was really seeing together. Yeah. And I just hope and pray, and I think that anybody that's for Biden will come over to her side. I hope, I could be wrong, but
I hear you. I think so too. I think it will work. I think it works that way better than it works the other way, meaning that progressives have to go vote for Biden. Younger people are not in the mood for his nostalgia. I think the African-American support he has is a very important part of his entire run for president. But I think it works the other way, too, that if he doesn't prevail as the nominee, whoever is gets the African-American vote. I think so.